I hope you enjoyed tea and that last talk, which was amazing. And you're still awake. Getting the, what would you call it? What's the hour that you call it? The sleeping hour?
Nap time.
Nap time at the conference is not the best. So we're going to make this as fun as we possibly can. And maybe that's why Amy put us on at this time. Because we're not talking about statistics, we're not talking about patterns, we're not talking about trends, we're talking about love languages and how we can apply the 5 love languages to the guest experience. My name is Heather Bayer. I am the host of the Vacation Rental Podcast. You'll be hearing more about that tomorrow if you come to my presentation on how to podcast. I'm also the CEO of Cottage Link Rental Management. It is a management company in Ontario, Canada, and we manage around 200 properties, give or take a few, as we cull them and as they come on board. I'm also the co-founder of the Vacation Rental Formula with my 2 VRF boys here at the front, Jason and Mike. And we are an education resource for owners and managers to learn more about this wonderful industry. And one final plug, VRF are co-partnering with VRM Intel in Orlando in November with the Vacation Rental Success Summit.
Hello, I'm Tyann Marcink, and I am co-founder of VR Mastered Vacation Rental Boot Camp. And yes, it is an actual in-person 5-day boot camp for vacation rental owners, managers, marketing, hospitality, all of that. It's really fun. And then I own 5 properties in Missouri. I'm building my 6th one. It's going to be a 10-bedroom house. My family owns several properties down there, so it's really cool. It makes for fun family dinners at holidays. And I'm also community ambassador for Touch Day. Touch Day is a digital welcome book, and if you notice the awesome app, I'm not biased whatsoever, that the Women's Summit has, it is based on Touch Day, and that is something also built for properties. So I use that for myself, for all my properties, and then I help other people with it as well.
And I'm Jessica Vozel. I'm a copywriter and content strategist specifically for vacation rentals. And my company Guesthook works with owners and managers in writing property descriptions, creating content, blogging, all that kind of fun stuff. And I'm also a serial guest. I've been in vacation rentals all over the world, so I bring the guest perspective.
So what you're going to learn, we hope, what we're talking about today you're going to take away is a new take on the guest experience. We gave this session at VRMA in Las Vegas last year, and it went down extremely well, even with the slightly different audience that we have had there. And I can tell from your attentiveness that this audience is going to be different and welcoming to us. So we're looking forward to that. We're going to tell you about different ways to talk your guests' language, because we all perceive the world in different ways. And if you can understand where your guests are coming from, you can talk their language, then you're going to be streets ahead of your competition. And Jessica's going to talk about how to apply these love languages to every step of the guest journey. So what's an experience anyway? We talk a lot about guest experiences and how we need to control and manage the guest experience, because if they get a great experience, then we're going to get great reviews and we're going to get repeat guests. They're going to come back to us over and over again. But is it this? Is it the whale watching trip? A lot of people will talk about experiences in this way. Or is it the balloon ride? I remember going on a balloon ride over the Napa Valley, and it was absolutely marvelous. But the vacation rental I stayed in at the time wasn't so good. So what sort of experience did I have overall? And how do I remember that experience? It wasn't really the balloon ride that caused me to be a bit meh about the whole thing. Or is it this? This actually is what we call a hero photo. It's the one that was front and center of the vacation rental that I booked in Costa Rica, because I imagined myself out here sitting on this in the infinity pool, looking out over the ocean. I didn't actually look, I did take the photo. We did take the photo of me on that. It didn't look quite the same. But I did have that experience. So yes, that's an experience. But is it also a set of sharp knives in the drawer? Is it a nice gift of maple syrup or a bottle of local wine that's left? Is it a wonderful digital guidebook that gives you all the information on local trips, the things that only the owners know about? This, to me, is more about the experience. These digital guidebooks are amazing to offer your guests. And this one in South Africa offers guests really great information on what to do. I mean, if I was going to South Africa, I wouldn't have a clue what I was going to do when I get there. So having a guest experience like this makes a huge difference. Or is it labeled light switches? For me, that is the experience. We just checked into a vacation rental just across the road last night. And I walked in, and in every room, there is a set of 4 light switches. None of them are labeled. You know, Murphy's Law, it's always going to be the last one. So you always want to try figuring out which is the last one you're going to use, and press that one first. For me, this is what makes a great experience. It's not a bottle of wine. It's not chocolates. It's not flowers. It's something that an owner has done to make the experience better. Tyann, tell us about your experiences.
So I also have a light switch story for you. I came to New Orleans in September, got some great shots. Stayed in this boutique hotel, which will remain unnamed. And my light switch looked like this. This one was located in the bathroom. Yeah, exactly. Now, my love language is actually gifts, receiving gifts. So when I checked into the hotel, I didn't receive a gift, which is fine. You know, not everybody does that. That's cool. But after that is quality time and acts of service. And just the simple fact that both of those did not happen, I was not very happy. However, I'm very gracious, and I'm going to overlook that. So the next morning, we wake up, and I want to go outside at 8 a.m., and this was the courtyard. I could walk through 2 inches of water to go get some coffee. I could, but I wasn't too happy. Like, okay, fine, whatever. This is New Orleans. Go with the flow, right? Well, then the last thing happened, and I looked above my door. Do you see what's missing? The smoke detector's missing. That was it. I was not happy. I walked through that water to get to the front desk and said, you know what? I cannot stay in a room that does not have a smoke detector. This is not safe. So they immediately moved me to another room, balcony, view, has a smoke detector. So they redeemed themselves, which was wonderful. But my experience did not start out well. And I'm not going to return.
And then my experience was also here in New Orleans, and nothing against this great city. There's also some great hospitality to be found here, but I was staying at a shared property, actually, in the Bywater neighborhood, And we were with 3 other groups in the shared accommodation. And right from the start, it was kind of an iffy impression because there was an active kitchen renovation happening during my stay. We were informed of that. So that's sort of the first thing. And then, someone came to the property. The owner of the property came to welcome us. But he seemed, pretty much in a hurry, just like wanted to put in the time. Hey guys, I hope you have a good stay. Bye. Didn't really show us around or anything like that. So we're sort of left to fend for ourselves. Fast forward to 1 a.m., coming back from the French Quarter, as you do. And I come in. It seems like everyone's in for the night, so I lock both the inner door, and then the door had an iron gate on the outside of it that I also locked from the inside. And fast forward again to 3 a.m. to loud pounding on the door. I wake up, I look disoriented at my cell phone, and I see a stream of text messages, increasingly panicked text messages from the owner of the property. Someone's locked out, please go let them in. My phone was on silent, I was trying to sleep, it was vacation, So anyway, I get up, I let the person in, all was well, but I think about that moment when he was there introducing himself and showing the property. He really didn't put in that quality time to say, here's something that people often miss, or even a label, would have been great in that situation. Some sort of reminder. And it was in the house rules, so that's on me to an extent. But sometimes guests need a little bit of a reminder, especially when it's 1 a.m.
Speaking of trying to get in at 1 a.m., this was a trip that I took to London, and we read the house rules. We read the check-in instructions. We detailed looked. It's 1 a.m. I want to get in this house. And it said, the key is in the lockbox to the left of the door. Go back one. Do you see a lockbox? Yeah, neither could we. So this was us, this next one. As Andy would say, the torch. We had the torch out. And we could not find this lockbox anywhere. It's like, it's 1 a.m. I am tired. I am slap happy at this point, and we're trying to be quiet because we're laughing because that's all you can do at this situation. But thankfully, there's a 24/7 call service. Called them up. They looked up and said, "Oh, yes. So you got to open the little blue door, and it's to the left. So the little blue door next to the big blue door. You must open it up, and then it's on the left." So this person did not spend the quality time to make sure every detail was in place for check-in, and it resulted in a 1 a.m. phone call. But they did have their backup plan in place, and thankfully that worked.
So this is over to you.
Yes. Okay, so we keep talking about love languages. How many of you have heard of Gary Chapman's 5 love languages?
Ooh,
oh, good.
Nice.
Good. Okay, so those of you who have heard of it, how many of you actually taken his quiz? Okay, about half of you. Wonderful. Okay, so if you have not, go to 5lovelanguages.com later today. It's a very short quiz. It is very revealing of what your love language is. And this is really important in any relationship. And my mom had pointed this out to me. My fiance and I, when we first met, that was one of the first things I said. I'm like, okay, you're taking this quiz, and I'm going to take this quiz. And then we're going to retake it every 6 months. And it's really interesting to learn to relate to somebody, because mine is receiving gifts. His is acts of service. So he knows if he wants to say I love you, he gives me a little something. And if I want to say I love you, I make sure I say, I'll do that for you. Then this summer, I needed to relate to my boys. I have 3 boys, 2 of them are teenagers. And I had them take this test. And it was really, really, really interesting. And the more I thought about it, it's like, you know what? Our guests, we have a relationship with them also. So how is it that we can make them feel welcomed? How can we give them those warm fuzzies? By speaking their love language. Everybody has a language of the tongue, but everybody has a love language as well. So we want to explain a little bit about what these love languages are. All right, so acts of service. So can having tea and coffee set out for your guest really be an expression of love? Absolutely. And Heather has a story about that.
Do I? Yes, the place, for those of you who know me, who've actually heard me speak before, you'll know that the one thing that will make my day when I arrive at a vacation rental is having a kettle. I'm British. I love my tea. So these two guys at the front can attest to the fact that the first thing I did when I walked through the door, apart from flicking the light switches on and off, was to check every cupboard. And it's like, there is no kettle. This owner hadn't thought about international visitors from the UK who might want a kettle. And because acts of service is my number one love language, forget the gifts, forget what we're going to talk about, words of affirmation and quality time and physical touch. You've got to give me the act of service to make me a really satisfied guest.
So anything you can do to ease the burden of responsibility for your guest, even just saying, hey, this is where the grocery stores are, telling them what time's best to shop, all of that is acts of service, and it will speak volumes to those guests. The words they most want to hear is, let me do that for you. And if you say that to Heather, her eyes light up. So, but on the other hand, laziness, broken commitments, and making more work for your guest, it tells them that their feelings, they don't matter. That means your maintenance guy not showing up when he said he was going to show up. That means you not returning a call. It means you forgetting to do something for your guests when you said you would. They don't like that. So when others serve you out of love, when you have this love language, not obligation, you truly feel valued and appreciated. And you want to make your guests feel valued and appreciated. So, quality time. Nothing says, I appreciate you, like full, undivided attention. So being there for this type of person is very critical. But really, really being there, the TV off, your knife and fork down, the phone down, all chores and tasks completely on standby. This makes them feel truly special and loved. And as Jess mentioned in her story earlier, she did not feel cared for by her host when she locked somebody else out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the breaking communication had some consequences.
Exactly. So distractions, postponed activities, the failure to listen can be especially hurtful. And the people with quality time thrive knowing that you've spent extra time to make their stay extra special. And this can be seen in the property welcome book. It can include areas about the coffee stores, or the coffees, shops, the grocery stores, the local area attractions, spending that quality time there, as well as making sure your grammar's correct on your listing description.
I just wanted to mention that I had no idea what Jess's love language was until this morning when she mentioned, and you've said it twice now, about this host who came to check them in and who seemed distracted. He didn't have the time. And this was a real impact on her. And that was how I knew immediately that Jess's primary love language was quality time. Am I right?
Right, absolutely. And so, if there's some of you may say, well, I can't even go to the house to greet every guest. So at least he's putting in that effort. But I think that's probably where his mind was. He said, well, I'm just going to put in the time, the quick time, and then get out of there. But it wasn't quality time. So just being there isn't necessarily enough. It's being there, being fully engaged with the guests when you're greeting them, if you're able to do so, or even a quick phone call, which Tyann does.
I call every single one of my guests, every single one. And I time it about an hour after they arrive. I get a notification from my lock when they arrive. About an hour later, I call. Hey, just wanted to call real quick so they know I'm not there to chat, and say, I want to make sure you arrive safely. And make sure everything's well at the house. And they so appreciate it. It shows up in the reviews. But it just gives those people whose quality time is their love language, they feel welcomed. They feel appreciated.
Yeah, no one wants to feel like they're putting out their own host, So,
okay, so words of affirmation. So actions don't always speak louder than words, especially for someone who's whose love language is words of affirmation. And the words of appreciation mean the world to you. So hearing the words, "Thank you for being our guest," that's important. And then hearing the reasons behind the appreciation just makes their spirits soar. Now, on the flip side, horrible communication or rude responses, they'll leave your guests shattered, and they're not easily forgotten. For instance, if they give you 5 questions in an email, and 4 of those 5 questions are answered in your listing, you don't go, "Oh my gosh, I gotta answer these questions again." No. You answer every single one of those questions, because if you leave one out, that's the one they're gonna remember, and they're not gonna feel appreciated because you did not take the time to answer those questions and make them feel valued. So those guests also thrive on hearing kind and encouraging words that build them up. All right, physical touch. How can we do physical touch in the vacation rental world, especially when you might not even see your guests? I think I've met 5 of my guests in 12 years, you know? But a person's primary language that's physical touch, of course, they're very touchy. So they like hugs, pats on the back, thoughtful touches on the arm. That can be ways to show excitement, concern, care, and love. But physical presence and accessibility is not always possible. So they're okay with social media love, thank you notes, just calling them so they hear your voice. Those things work for physical touch. And then appropriate timely touches like a handshake, a thank you note, those communicate warmth, safety, and appreciation.
And another way of connecting with those people who have physical touch as a primary love language is to make, and this is so simple, making sure your beds and bedding are incredibly comfortable. So that comes in on a couple of love languages. You've got quality time because you've spent the time to make sure that bed is amazing. But people whose primary language is physical touch will really appreciate a thick duvet in a cold climate, or good air conditioning in the heat, making sure the aircon's at the right temperature for when they arrive, or in the winter in our snowy climates of Ontario, making sure there's a fire going. That is what will get to the heart of the person with physical touch as their primary love language.
All right, so number 5 is receiving gifts. And this is one that it seems like us in our industry, we're like, "Oh my gosh, what gift basket do you leave? What do you leave for the gift? You got to do something. You're not doing something, that's why you didn't get 5 stars. No, you could do the exact same thing, give the exact same gift to every single person, and you'll get 5 stars, and then here comes a 4, and here comes a 3. You're like, "What? I did everything the same." Except you probably did not speak the love language of someone along the way. So anyway, receiving gifts, it's not materialism, but they thrive on the love, thoughtfulness, and effort behind the gift. So for me, I speak this love language. The perfect local welcome gift or a gesture shows that I'm known, I'm cared for, and I am prized above whatever was sacrificed to bring the gift to me. But a missed welcome gift or note, it could be disastrous. So gifts are heartfelt symbols to me. I'm just gonna put me in there. Someone else's appreciation for you. It's important for people like me. But it might be my top, but there's some other ones too. Yeah.
So just in closing of this section, and going back to my labeling, this was a meme that I found a couple of months ago. It was on a Facebook page. Got so drunk last night, we started labeling things in our Airbnb and woke up to this. So now I'm going to label everything. Just so I appeal to people like me. No, that's not serious, but I just thought we'd share that one. What we want to do now is take you through every step of the guest journey and just show how you can apply the love languages as we go through.
So you might be wondering, how do I know what love language my guests speak? Am I going to give them turn on? guys might need this to jump in. Okay, so you might be wondering, how do I know what love language my guests speak? Do I give them the Gary Chapman quiz before they get there? That's not realistic. What you really want to do is make sure that you hit all 5 throughout the guest journey. At some point, you want to speak each of the love languages just to make sure you're covering all of your bases. So here's the 5 stages of the guest journey, which you may have seen in other contexts. We've got the research phase, we've got the post-booking phase, the pre-stay phase, once they're there. You've got the during stay, which I think a lot of people default to that being the one that they think about the most, which makes sense. It's also the one, which we'll get to, it's also the one that's the most, it's easiest during that phase to hit all of the love languages. But it's a whole journey, so you can't just stay focused on the during phase. And then the post-stay phase, when you're reaching back out to the guest and making sure that keeping them engaged with your brand. So research phase. The first slide there. This is what your guests often look like when they enter the research phase. It should be a fun thing, a lot of times they're booking a vacation, a getaway, but it can be really stressful to find the right place. Not to mention that sometimes your guests are not traveling for fun. It may be work, which we're working right now, and it's still pretty fun. Or it could be, a loved one's having a surgery or something like that. So you want to make sure that when guests are in the research phase, you make it as easy as possible for them to find what they're looking for. What you want is for your guests to look like this. You know that feeling when you find the perfect place, and not just like an okay place, like this hits all the marks. When you find a place, you're like, oh yeah, this place is gonna be perfect. I really hope it's available. Like you get that feeling like, oh God, what if it's not available? So, you want your guests to feel like this is my place, I found it. And the host has put in the quality time to make sure that there are clear signposts, that you give them the information they're looking for. You're not too aggressively salesy. You're just, here's the things that my place has to offer, and let them know whether or not it's the right place for them. So being clear in your listing description, making sure to answer inquiry letters as quickly as possible. Oh, I forgot about this part, yeah. I'm flipping through all of them quickly. So yeah, words of affirmation. We're here, we're listening. We want to welcome you to our home. So that's the way you can sort of incorporate some things into the research phase. Then we get to the post-booking phase. And all too often, this is what you see. There it is. The tumbleweeds between booking and arrival. A lot of this is automated, right? So if people are booking through the OTAs, they're going to get an automatic confirmation, so they at least have that. But how nice is it to hear also from the management company or the owner of the property, just to say, hey, we got your reservation. We're really looking forward to seeing you in the property. You want them to feel excited, and happy. So those are words of affirmation. Just affirming that, hey, you're in the books. This is happening. Is there anything we can do? Yes, yeah, here, Tyann.
And then something else that I do with the post-booking is I do send a gift. So what I do for my places in Branson is I created this card that says explore. And this is a picture of my son on the front and in the trees up on a cliff. And inside of it is my favorite hiking trail and a tip of what to do when you get there, why you should do it, and a little bit of history of the trail too, because it's really cool. There's over 300 hand-hewn stone steps along the cliff. It's really cool. So my guests get this, and then they got a picture of my family on the back so they can connect with me as well. And it's also physical touch because it's something physical. So I'm saying thank you for booking. Here's a gift. And it's physical touch. And every guest that books in Branson, they get this right after booking, so they can get excited about coming.
Okay, so now we're at the pre-stay phase, which is slightly different from post-booking. It sounds like kind of the same thing, but this is really like the day of arrival. That's when we get to the pre-stay. And what you don't want is this. You don't want your guests to be, arriving at 1 a.m., confused, looking around, trying to find the key, trying to find the place. You got family, everyone's cranky. So you want to put in the act of service. In this case, is going to be, the quality time that you're putting in here to make sure that you've given clear access instructions, that you've given clear directions to get to the property if it's confusing. You really want to make that first moment really a smooth transition for your guest so that they can get right into the fun.
Yeah, I just had one experience here years ago coming across from England to Canada. on one of my very first trips, and it was the middle of winter, and we'd had an 8-hour trip, and we arrived at 6 o'clock in the evening, and it was dark, and it was snowy, and we headed north into the snow. And we had the directions, and got the directions out as we came off the highway to find this property. And we're driving down this road, we found the road, we're driving down, and I said, okay, what's next? Oh, the instructions say, turn right at the house with the red roof. There were 4 feet of snow on every roof. So the owner hadn't taken that quality time to think that they might want to change the directions in winter when every roof was covered in snow. It added an extra hour onto our trip to actually find the place. Because could we get hold of the owner with a phone? This was 1998. So we actually didn't have the phones then. But that was my experience of an owner not applying quality time to getting a message across to their guests.
Here we are back at the 1 a.m. arrival with the torch out, trying to find your way. You know, you want to make sure that people are able to get in when they arrive, so they can get started. And you want them to look like that, you know, happy, ready to get started with their trip. So if you put the time in for the pre-stay, that can really make a difference. So now we're at the during stay, which, as I said, is the time in which you really get to shine. You know, you can really, all the love languages come into play here. You know, having the comfortable beds for people when they arrive, all those touch points. Welcoming them with quality time, explaining the property, whether in person or by phone or even by text message. You know, just some acknowledgement that you're there. Acts of service, gifts, the welcome gift. Actually, we have a picture of the. This is Tyann, so I'm gonna let you talk about that.
So I don't live next to all my properties, but when I'm around the ones that are, and I find out what my guests are coming for, you know, I totally love to spoil them because that's my love language. So when I found out it was a serviceman's birthday celebration, I went to my local grocer, got to make my own case of local beers, got him a birthday cupcake, and said, thank you for your service, and happy birthday on the cupcake. So they, as soon as they walked in, oh my gosh, they were so happy. Because when I made that phone call, it wasn't, yeah, everything's fine, well, great stay, thanks. It was, oh my gosh, thank you so much. We really appreciate it. So I hit their love language. Yeah, 5-star review, of course, on that one.
And then this slide is in here because you all are probably familiar with the experience when you go somewhere unfamiliar and new and you're looking for a breakfast spot, you're starving. And so you're like, all right, TripAdvisor, Yelp, let's find something. And then McDonald's is one of the suggestions, like Wendy's is one of the suggestions, which, hey, that's great. Like, that's actually pretty good food when you're on the road. But, you know, sometimes you just want that more authentic local experience. You want your host to take the quality time quality time to explain to you their favorite places, you know, so that you're getting that insider information. It's a nice way to welcome your guests and continue that during stay, hitting that love language during the stay itself. All right, and then post stay. So your guests have left. Ideally, they look like this. They're full of happy memories of their time with you. You know, they're heading home and they're looking for that sort of nostalgic reminder of the great time that they had. So this is your opportunity to engage them with words of affirmation, reaching back out to them. The first and most important thing, of course, is to just say thank you. Thank you for staying. You know, you like to think, well, the trip's over, so I've already made my impression and now it's time to go. But there's that last little piece, you know, thanking the guest for being there, that creates that positive association that ideally leads to repeat bookings and referrals and all of that good stuff. So, and Tyann again. Tyann's a whiz at this stuff, obviously. As you can see.
So then every single guest also gets a custom thank you card. And this is scheduled to go out the day that they depart from my place. And each of my cards is to each of my houses. And I tell them, you know, thank you for coming. And it's branded on the back. So it arrives a few days after their stay. And then, of course, it, you know, invites them to book again when they're ready to come back as well. And it just, you know, pretty pictures of the house. It just serves as a reminder that they can come back. I've had guests say it sits on their windowsill in their kitchen. It helps them to remember those memories and good times. And so it's that physical touch, that words of affirmation.
So I just wanted to walk you guys through an example of a property management company that's doing all the steps really well, and incorporating the 5 love languages into all 5 steps. And this is Beside the Sea rentals. They're in Camber Sands, UK, on the south coast of England. They have about 50 properties that they manage, and they do it all with a very high touch. They really have nailed a bunch of things here. So, and it's just the 2 of them. I was going to say the 3 of them, but Arthur the kid isn't really involved yet. And there's just 2 of them managing this. I mean, of course, they have cleaners and things that help out. But so the first thing that they do really well is they have a really good sense of their target audience. They're dog friendly and they're child friendly, and they really for every stage of the journey is really targeting those people. So they have great content strategy, where they have pieces like this about the best dog-friendly beaches, the best dog-friendly pubs in Rye, and then what to do with your family when you're there. So they're really trying to do top of funnel with that to reach the target guest at the beginning of the booking stage. And as a result, they do have 60% direct bookings because they have this, they have an established brand, they get good results in the search rankings, and they have a clear content strategy that's reaching the guests that they want to reach. So they take the quality time to develop that strategy that's going to make people say, oh, this is exactly the place I'm looking for my family. So now we're at the post stay, and they send the words of affirmation. You're in the books. This is the personalized one. And I love how they sign it. Kind regards, Richard, Sophie, Arthur, and Oscar the dog. So they're continuing that sort of brand experience the whole time. And it's not in a cynical way, it's in a genuine way. I actually had the pleasure of staying there, got to meet them, got to meet Arthur and Oscar, and they really are just genuine people, and that comes through in their brand. So, and they have sharp knives. The acts of service are strong with this group. They have sharp knives. They also have standards.
Do they have tea kettles?
They do have tea kettles, of course, yes. And I don't know about that. That's not my love language, so I wasn't really paying attention for that one. But they do have Nespresso machines in every unit as well. So that was for me, though. I like that one. The ultimate result of this work that they're putting in is that they have 5-star, or very nearly 5 stars across all of the platforms. And then in the post stay, with these guys, they send out once a month. They send out a timely newsletter, nothing salesy, unless they may offer a special discount. Of course, they thank you after the stay as well. And then they have these really nice kind of nostalgic newsletters where it's like, just, hey, do you remember? They really do have spectacular sunsets in Camber Sands. Like, they take your breath away. So they have this nice reminder, of what your trip was like. And so you can take a look at it, keeps them in your mind. And again, with the referrals, it's a really nice way to keep in touch. And they have really excellent open rates, like up to 40% open rates on these newsletters, just because they're quick, they're bite-sized, it's just like a nice little reminder. And they usually link to some sort of piece of content, like a blog post or something like that. So great way to engage the guests with words of affirmation and quality time after the stay has ended. And physical touch, too, in a way. You're keeping in touch with them.
Okay, so if you have wondered what is your love language as a guest, but even how is it that you can speak the love language of every single guest without knowing what your guest's love language is? 1, don't worry about finding out their love language, okay? It's not possible. But the important part, as Jess earlier mentioned, is insert the love language into your workflow and make sure you hit each one several times at different points. That way you're making sure you speak everyone's love language at some point. Now, I created this quiz here, the love language as your guest. It's based on Gary Chapman's 5 love languages quiz. And I took them and created the questions. They're also tips, ideas of things you can do in your workflow to speak the love languages. And it's really, really interesting when you figure out what your love language is, because I'm guessing it's the one you heavily have in your workflow. So pay attention so you can find out what the other ones that it might be missing from your workflow.
So that's just about it, folks. That's it, folks. What we've covered is a new take on the guest experience. So now when you think about the guest experience, think beyond the whale watching trip and the balloon ride and the things that people can do while they're there. Think about what they're feeling when they book, when they're anticipating their stay, or just before they arrive, during their stay, and after. And use the guest languages. And you can do this without breaking the bank. I guess there's a little bit of cost involved in your cards, but it's pretty minimal. And I'm trying to work out how I do it with 200 properties, because that actually for every week that makes it a little bit more pricey, but there's ways of doing it. And we've talked about how to apply these love languages to every step of the guest journey. And I hope that you've been able to take something away from this and that you can think about your own love language, how you currently use it with your workflow, and how you can apply all the others as well. And with that,
just one more thing. Also look at how you can apply the love languages to those people who work for you and who work with you. Huge. This summer, my housekeeper did a phenomenal job of making sure when he left the house each time that each TV was on TV cable mode and not the game system mode. Exactly. He took the time every single turnover on every single house to do that. And I made a point to send him a card with brownies and point that out. I so appreciate it because what happens is it saves me that 5-10 minute call when the grandma and grandpa arrive at the house and say, I can't watch TV. How do I watch TV? And then I have to walk them through it. So, this isn't something just for your significant other, your family, your friends, your guest, but those who work with you as well. Show appreciation to them and figure out what their love language is. And I would go so far as, if you're comfortable, ask them to take the love language test on the 5 Love Languages website and really know what it is.
okay, that's, whoops. Yeah, that was actually it. So, thank you, Tyann. Thank you, Jess. Thank you, everybody, for coming. If you've got any questions, if you'd like, because we're sort of getting ready to move over to the Redfish Grill. So if you've got questions, please come up, talk to us now, or talk to us this evening. We are more than willing to take the time, the quality time, to spend with you. Thank you.